Guys, we're back with part 2 of our walkthrough of the 2017 reading paper. If you haven't checked out part 1 where we looked at the first text, go ahead and click on that video now and then come back. But here we go. We're going to move on to the second text now. I'm going to continue to demonstrate how to solve this paper really accurately using evidence from the text, which you can see on the right hand side. So the second text is called Swimming the Channel. And like last time, what I'm going to do before I start going into the questions is I'm just going to look at the whole text. So let's have a look. It's called Swimming the English Channel from Dover in England to Calais in France. And the first part is called The First Channel Swimmer. We've got this picture here of Captain Matthew Webb. Looks like quite an old-fashioned picture, and I can see a date jumping out at me here of 1875. I'm starting to get the idea from these pictures and this title that this is going to be a non-fiction text all about someone travelling, or swimming rather, across the English Channel. Okay, it's quite obvious. Now I'm happy. I've spent 20 seconds looking at the text. I'm going to start looking at the questions. Okay, so the first one says, nearly 22 hours later, the exhausted man staggered onto French soil at Calais and became an instant hero. Find and copy 2 different words from the sentence above that show how tired Matthew Webb was. Now, I don't want to break my own rules here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the text and I'm just going to read the first paragraph because I think it's so important that you just get a sense of what this story is before you start working on the questions. So here we go. The first paragraph says, the first channel swimmer. On a foggy August afternoon in 1875, a lone swimmer dived from Admiralty Pier in Dover into the cold waters of the English Channel. Nearly 22 hours later, the exhausted man staggered onto French soil at Calais and became an instant hero. So there's our quote. Captain Matthew Webb had become the first person to swim across the English Channel. Okay, cool. I feel like I've got some context now. I understand where this quote fits in. So what are the 2 words that show how tired Matthew Webb was? Well, it's a good example of show not tell. If you do this in your writing at school, it's a really good way of showing your reader that someone feels a certain way rather than just saying he's tired. Okay, so words like this, exhausted. Okay, this adjective describing man is going to tell us how tired he was because that is a synonym of tired. And also the verb. So this verb here, staggered, is a really good example of show not tell because if you have a character staggering, it might suggest that it's because they have got no energy left, they're tired. So there we are, we had to get both of those for just 1 mark. Number 16 says, what event made Matthew Webb want to swim the English Channel? Well, I haven't found that out yet in this first paragraph, so I'm going to go ahead and just assume that I'm kind of done with this first paragraph for now, because most of the time, questions come in order of the text. So let's read the next paragraph, all of it, and hopefully we'll find our answer within there as well, about what made Matthew Webb want to do it. Really important word there. 27-year-old Webb was a merchant seaman from Shropshire. He had always been a powerful swimmer, and hearing of J.B. Thompson's failed attempt to swim the channel in 1872, he was inspired to give up his job and train as a long-distance swimmer. I think there's our answer. Let's read the paragraph though. Webb's first attempt had to be abandoned due to bad weather, but he returned to the icy channel waters 2 weeks later. Okay, very clearly down in here somewhere where it says, hearing of J.B. Thompson's failed attempt to swim the channel inspired him to give up his job and do it. So what event made him want to do it? Well, the event was hearing of J.B. Thompson's failed attempt. Okay, so you could get away there with just putting J.B. Thompson's failed attempt because that is the event that made him want to do it. Let's move on to number 17. Again, we've kind of read through this paragraph now. But this next question says, look at the paragraph beginning 27-year-old Webb. So I'm glad we took the time just to read the whole paragraph. Find and copy 1 word from this paragraph that is closest in meaning to motivated. So when you're motivated to do something, it's like you've got an urge to do something. Something is making you feel like you can do it. Yeah. So again, going back to this middle part here, it said, J.B. Thompson's failed attempt to swim the channel in 1872, he was inspired to give up his job. So inspired fits the same meaning as motivated here, right? He was motivated by J.B. Thompson's failed event to go and have a go himself. So inspired is the word we are looking for. It's always good to try and replace the word with the word you're looking for, and motivated does work there. Number 18 is a true or false question. Now, when you get 2 marks for these ones, 2 possible marks, you need to get 3 out of 4 to get 1 mark. You need to get 4 out of 4 to get 2 marks. So you can only make 1 mistake to drop a mark. Okay, using the information from the text, put a tick in the correct box to show whether each statement is true or false. Matthew Webb's first attempt to swim the English Channel was not successful. We know that's true because it says right here in this same paragraph that we've just read, Webb's first attempt had to be abandoned. Abandoned means he had to stop due to bad weather, but he returned to the icy channel waters 2 weeks later. So his first attempt, it is true, it was not successful, it had to be abandoned. The first successful swim of the English Channel was in 1872. Well, we know that's not true straight away because the whole point of this text is in 1875, this guy, Matthew Webb, was the first person to do it. In 1872 was J.B. Thompson's failed attempt, so that's false. That was not a successful swim. Next one, J.B. Thompson and Matthew Webb swam the English Channel in 1875. Well, Matthew Webb did, but J.B. Thompson didn't. Well, if he did, we don't know it from the text, so we cannot assume that we cannot just, think, oh, maybe he did, so we can't prove it. No, the text does not tell us that J.B. Thompson swam it in 1875. It only tells us that Matthew Webb did, so that's false. Matthew Webb took 20 hours to swim the English Channel. I remember from the first paragraph it told us this. So if we skip ahead, I'm doing skimming and scanning. Look, here we are. Nearly 22 hours later, the exhausted man staggered. No, so it's not 20 hours, it was 22. Okay, so it was true, false, false, false to get all 2 marks. Brilliant stuff. So we've done a lot here, haven't we, with the first 2 paragraphs. I'd like to think we're going to be moving on now, but let's see. Name 2 of the hardships that Matthew Webb faced in swimming the English Channel and explain how he dealt with them. So a hardship is a challenge, right? A hardship is a challenge. So 2 challenges he faced and 2 ways he got over it. So look, only 2 marks here. So we're going to need to get a lot of this right here. 3 things out of the 4 things we have to get right. If we get 2 hardships and 1 explanation, 1 how he dealt with it, then we get the 2 marks. But go for all 4 to be safe. So let's keep reading because the next paragraph literally has the word hardships in the first line. It says, many of the hardships that Matthew Webb had to deal with during his pioneer swim are still faced by modern day channel swimmers. Okay, we haven't found out what they are yet. We've just found out that modern swimmers still have to face these challenges. In fact, some of his methods for dealing with these hardships are still used today. Okay, come on then, tell me the hardships. Webb coated himself in oil for protection against the cold and the jellyfish stings. Well, do you know what, guys? We could get all of our marks just from that sentence alone. Let's just pick one of them, though. Look, let's do, okay, hardship. Jellyfish stings. Okay, that is a hardship. That is a challenge. And he got over it by coating himself in oil. Coating himself in oil. Okay, there's our first one. Now, we could get the other mark by literally saying it was cold and he got over it by coating himself in oil. So we could get all of our marks from that one sentence. But look, there are more, just to show you. He was also accompanied by boats so his friends could protect and feed him. It must be said, however, that the ale, brandy and beef tea they supplied are not standard for today's cross-channel swimmers. So we could talk about the fact that the hardship here was, if we got his friends, hardship was, it was dangerous. Okay? It was dangerous. And we know it's dangerous because it literally says he was accompanied by boats so his friends could protect and feed him. Okay, so a hardship was dangerous or he needed to eat. He needed to eat in the sea, right? That's a hardship. How he dealt with it was friends in boats protected him. So he had a lot of challenges, basically. He had to try and eat in the sea. It was cold. There were jellyfish. It was dangerous because of that, I guess. But he had the way he dealt with that was he had his friends in boats beside him, ready to protect him and feeding him and giving him ale, brandy and beef tea. Now, an ale and brandy are both alcohol, and I don't think alcohol is going to be very useful when you're trying to do something athletic. Quite the opposite. Number 20. Find and copy a group of words that tells you that here we are, that the drinks of ale, brandy and beef tea given to Matthew could be considered unusual today. Well, that last bit here where it mentioned it, it said, it must be said, however, that the ale, brandy and beef tea they supplied are not standard for today's cross-channel swimmers. So not standard is what is going to be giving us that idea that that's unusual, as in usual means normal, unusual means not normal, okay? Number 21. Why do slow channel swimmers swim further than fast swimmers? Well, I've not read anything about that right now, so I'm going to presume now that we're kind of done with this page, at least for now, unless there's a big question that asks us to summarize everything. I'm going to move on to the next page. We've got this frequently asked questions section. So I think it's good now to remind ourselves of the question. Why do slow channels, so a why question, slow channel swimmers swim further than faster swimmers? Okay, interesting. I wonder if any of these questions jump out at us as quite obviously going to give us the answer. How cold is the water? I don't think it's going to answer that. How far is it? I don't think we'll answer that either. But how long does it take to swim across the English Channel might do, okay? However, my advice is just read through it. Guys, this is not much reading here, is it? You'd be annoyed if you skipped the sake of 20 seconds of reading and then you didn't find your answer here, okay? So let's just read from the top here. How cold is the water? The water temperature can range from 12 to 18 degrees. Most people would consider water below 20 degrees too cold for swimming. Cool. How far is it from England to France? The direct distance from Dover to Cape Gris-Nez near Calais is approximately 21 miles. But a swimmer always swims further than that due to the movement of the tides. Oh, we've kind of got a clue there. It doesn't talk about slower swimmers and faster swimmers. Let's carry on reading. How long does it take to swim the English Channel? How fast do you swim? The faster you are, the more direct your swim will be. A slower swimmer will not only take longer, but will have to swim further because of the tides and the currents. I mean, the question literally says because of the tides and the currents. Why do slow channel swimmers swim further than faster swimmers? Because of the tides and the currents. When the text is nice enough to just give you the answer written down, even with the word because of the tides and currents, just copy it down exactly. Why try and summarize something that has literally been written for you as a find and copy question? Okay, so you could have also said things like faster swimmers are more direct, using the sentence above, okay? Or slower swimmers take a less direct path, but you know what? Just use what the text says. Number 22, look at the section headed frequently asked questions. Okay, cool. We've already read sort of 3 of them. Let's finish reading this actually. Swimmers also have to plan stops for feeding. The fastest recorded crossing is 7 hours. The slowest is nearly 29 hours. Wow, that's a big difference. An average swimmer doing 2 miles per hour would be in the water for up to 16 hours, but a stronger swimmer may take only 10 hours. So I guess that's just showing us that there's a huge range there depending on how good you are at swimming. Anyway, the question. How long did the fastest swim across the channel take? The fastest ever. Well, I think it said it right here. We just read this. The fastest recorded crossing is 7 hours. So there's our answer. 7 hours. Don't just put 7, because that could be 7 minutes. It could be 7 elephants. Who knows what you're talking about? 7 hours is the answer. This text is not so bad, is it? I think non-fiction texts are the easiest because the information is normally chunked really nicely for you. So look at this section headed frequently asked questions. Okay, cool. We're still there. Put a tick in the correct box to show whether each of the following statements is a fact or an opinion. Well, we haven't finished reading it yet, so let's see what we can answer without reading it all. And if we don't know something, we can go back to it. It says the temperature of the water in the channel can range from 12 to 18 degrees. I remember reading this. The water temperature can range from 12 to 18. Yeah, that's a fact. Okay. Water with a temperature of 18 degrees is too cold to swim in. This is a really tricky one. Most people would consider water below 20 degrees too cold for swimming. This is very clearly then an opinion, isn't it? If only most people would consider, that means some people don't think that. So clearly we're not talking about facts now, we're just talking about people's opinions on whether it feels too cold. The direct distance across the channel is approximately 21 miles. Well, I literally underlined this as I went accidentally. So yes, let's just check. The direct distance is approximately 21 miles. Okay, cool, fact. Faster swimmers do not swim as many miles across the channel. Yeah, it did say that, didn't it? Look, a swimmer always swims further. No, hang on, this bit. How fast do you swim? The faster you are, the more direct your swim will be. A slower swimmer will not only take longer, but will have to swim further. So if a slower swimmer swims further, then we can say that faster swimmers do not swim as many miles across the channel. That's also a fact. That's just a fact because that's how the tides work. If you're faster, you have less tides. You spend less time battling against the tides, so you'll just simply get there quicker and not have to swim as much because you're not being pushed back as many times. 2 marks, easy peasy. Number 24. In what year did the French authorities make it illegal for people to swim from France to England? Ooh, I've not read anything about that yet. Now, notice that we didn't actually have to use anything for that question above from parts we haven't already read. So what should we do in this situation? Well, if you listen to my last video, I think it's so important that you don't cut corners. And if you feel like we're moving on now to something else, say we're moving down here, just carry on reading until you find the part in which your next answer requires. So let's carry on reading. Will you succeed if you train hard? Preparation for a channel swim involves months of training in very cold ocean water, but even this does not guarantee success. Fewer people have swum the English Channel than have climbed Mount Everest, the world's highest mountain. I'm quite shocked by that fact. Some hazards of the swim include hypothermia, which is a dangerous loss of body heat, seasickness, and jellyfish. We knew that one. Unforeseen obstacles like rubbish floating in the sea can also cause problems no matter how hard you train. Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it? Why do people swim the English Channel? That isn't a question with a single answer. The motivation for such a venture are as varied as the swimmers. Some people do it for glory, some to raise money for charity, but most do it to challenge themselves and for the satisfaction of being one of a select few to achieve this feat. Lovely stuff. Doesn't help us talk about this question about when France made it illegal. So let's keep going down now to safe to swim. Safe to swim. The French and UK Coast Guards are responsible for search and rescue operations in the English Channel. The French authorities outlawed swimming from France to England in 1993 for safety reasons. There we go. Okay, so they stopped people being allowed to swim from France to England in 1993. The next question says, in the same section, find and copy one word that shows swimming the English Channel is illegal in France. We've kind of just done that, right? We can't really do the question above without knowing this one, so it's a weird question. The word was outlawed, wasn't it? French authorities outlawed swimming. Outlawed means banned. Or, in other words, made it illegal. Okay, so outlawed there. Kind of can't really answer number 24 without 25, so they're very much linked. Number 26 talks about David Walliams, and I can see a picture of David Walliams over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish reading this bit here, and then we'll move on to the David Walliams part. Then in 2010, the deputy director of the French Coast Guard, Jean-Christophe Berving, I'm sorry, I butchered that name, I'm very sorry to the French people, said he was in favour of a complete ban on swimming in either direction. He pointed out that the swim uses the same stretch of water as 500 vessels each day. Vessels are like boats, okay, ships, and other things that travel in the water. Critics compare the swim to crossing a motorway on foot. Supporters say the swim is well regulated and comparatively safe. So clearly people disagree, don't they, on whether it's safe or not to do so. They have different opinions on whether we should allow people to actually swim across the channel. All right, let's look at this celebrity swim a bit and read the question first, see what we're looking for. David Walliams was determined to be successful in his attempt to swim the English Channel. Give one piece of evidence from the text which shows this. So this is referring to determination to be successful. Okay, how can we tell that he was determined to be successful? Let's find out. The author, comedian, and actor David Walliams says that he was never sporty at school, but he did enjoy swimming. Okay, that doesn't reveal why he was determined to do it. This is just setting up, his backstory. While preparing for his channel swim, Walliams didn't miss a single training session in 9 months. He knew that more than 90% of people who attempt the swim fail. Walliams took 10 hours and 34 minutes to cross the channel, and his swim raised more than $1 million in donations for the charity Sport Relief. Okay, I think I found it up here. If I was trying to show someone that I was really determined to do something, and that involved me not missing a single training session for 9 months, I think that would show my determination. So I'm going to use that as my evidence. He didn't miss a single training session. Now, we could just leave it there, training session, but I want to make sure I'm really confidently going to get my marks, okay? Because you never know, the mark scheme might be really picky and they say, oh, you need to mention 9 months. Okay, he didn't miss a single training session in 9 months. Why not add just a bit more evidence to your point that we've copied directly from the text here? Okay, and we've got our mark. Number 27 says, which of the following would be the most suitable summary of the whole text? That's really interesting. I love these questions. The whole text. Okay, the life of David Walliams. Would that be fair for the whole text, considering this is the only part about David Walliams? I don't think so. This is not correct because clearly there's a wider point here. It's not all about David Walliams, is it? A sporting challenge. That seems quite suitable, but let's check the other options. Sailing the channel. It kind of sounds right at first, doesn't it? But then you realise it says sailing, and this is literally nothing to do with sailing. It's about swimming, so that doesn't make any sense. And then training for survival. Is this about survival? I don't really think so. I don't really think they're training to survive. They're training to complete a feat, like an impressive sporty thing. So I think let's go back to the second one. A sporting challenge is definitely the most appropriate and most suitable to kind of represent what this whole text is about, isn't it? It's about a challenge that people have tried to complete, a really hard sporting challenge that only a few people have done. All right, that's fair enough. We can easily get rid of the other three answers to make that obvious. Number 28, draw lines to match each section to its main content. So there's another summary kind of question here. For example, it's done one for us, look. Celebrity swimmer, which is that last paragraph we read, matches to highlights the continuing attractions of swimming the channel. Okay, fair enough. Let's go back to this one. So the first channel swimmer. Well, that was our first paragraph, wasn't it? It was up here. The first channel swimmer. What, first page, I guess, because it was all under that subheading. What's this all about? Is the first channel swimmer all about summarizing key information about swimming the channel? I mean, maybe. Showing contrasting viewpoints about swimming the channel? No, I definitely think that one is going to come down here, because when we read the Safe to Swim one, that was all about how people had different opinions. So let's come back to that. And then gives information about the origins of swimming the channel. I think that's the one, isn't it? Because it starts back in 1875. It talks about the very first person, the origins of swimming the channel. It talks about the first person who attempted it and failed in 1872. This just makes the most sense here. Now, frequently asked questions makes way more sense to go to this one here. Summarizes key information about swimming the channel. Yeah, it does. It just gives us different key bits of information about the channel because they frequently ask questions, which leaves us with what we hope to have here in the Safe to Swim paragraph, which was down here, the one that talked about people disagreeing about whether we should ban people doing that or not. This shows contrasting, so contrasting means opposite viewpoints about swimming the channel. Yeah, absolutely right. Some people said we shouldn't because it's like walking across the motorway, and other people, supporters, said the swim is well regulated and comparatively safe. So clearly people disagree on that. Okay, and that's the end of our section. So guys, come back for the next video, go and check out part 3. You can click on it in the side, and let's finish this paper together. See you there.